Welcome back to the shop. On today's episode, we're going to cover how to make a pen. Pens are great projects, simple little projects that can be made quickly and easily and make excellent presents. The first step in making a pen is to get a 5-inch long blank. Once we've got our 5-inch blank cut, the next step is to head over to the bandsaw and cut a small little pen blank out of this. What we're going to need is a perfect square. So in today's project, I'm going to be using a piece of Chechen, which is an awesome hardwood from Mexico. It's got a dark grain pattern to it. It's real heavy and dense wood. It sands nice, and it'll make for a great pen project. To get this one going, I need to cut our blank into a perfect square. So the easy cheat for this, so that I don't have to measure, is to just slide the fence over and just have the blank just barely kiss the blade, lock it down, make sure everything looks fine, and now I can turn the piece over on its side and go ahead and make my cut. And I think I'm going to use this side here. I like the grain pattern just slightly better. In order to cut this small little blank for the pen, I'm going to use a couple of push sticks to keep my hands up and out of the way so that there's no danger of me going into the blade. I'm going to have one push stick pushing straight into the fence, keeping this flat, and I'm going to have another push stick pushing straight past the blade. At no time do I want my hands to come in danger, so I'm going to use these push sticks to keep them out of the way. Once the blade stops, I'll grab my piece, and you can see it's been cut into a perfect square. So now that we've got our 5-inch blank cut and squared up, we're going to actually go to the miter gauge and cut this down into its 2 individual pieces. So I have a little gauge set up here that will give me the correct measurement. It's just a little bit greater than 2 inches, since each of the blanks will end up being 2 inches perfectly. So just start out a little bit big. I've got this special D-clamp here to keep my fingers out of the way, so I'm going to hold that in the clamp, and that way my hands stay away from the blade. I end up with this short 2-inch long piece, actually just about 2 1/4 inch long piece, and I just need to cut my second one now, and then I'll be ready to move to the next step. Now that the blade's stopped, I'll grab my piece and go ahead and make my second cut. It's just like before. Now I've got my 2 separate pieces here. I need to be able to drill a hole right down the center of these, so one of the easiest ways to do this without having to measure is to simply use the corner to corner method and draw a line diagonally from one corner to the other, and then the other corner. So one corner to corner and one corner to corner. We'll get a cross pattern and be able to find the perfect center. Now that I'm over at the drill press, we have this specialty clamp here to clamp square objects. And we'll just go ahead and clamp our blank into this clamp here. And this clamp will be used, because this piece is so small, I don't want to have to hold it in my hands, because it's likely to tear out of my hands and I won't be able to hold it straight. So we'll just use this simple clamp setup. I just have a clamp to the table, so the clamp holds the blank, and then this clamp clamps that clamp to the table and holds it all in place. The next step is to go ahead and drill out the center hole out of this blank. Go ahead and lock it into the clamp here. Clamp's just a simple setup of one clamp clamped to the table of the drill press, And now I'll go ahead and drill out the center hole out of this blank. Make sure as you do this, you're going to do a method called pecking, which is I'm going to drill down a little bit, come back up and clear all the chips, go down a little farther, come back up, clear all the chips. Very important to clear all the chips constantly, because this is a deep hole, and if those chips get clogged up in there, your piece will crack, and then you'll have to go back to step one and start all over again. I try to keep the drill bit out of the wood for as much of the cut as possible. That way it keeps the heat down and doesn't cause the drill bit to expand and possibly crack the blank. We've got both of the holes drilled through the blanks, and now we can move on to inserting the barrels into the blanks. The gluing process is a pretty straightforward affair. We just need to get these brass barrels into our pen blanks. And the way we're going to do that is, the first thing, we're going to scuff these up using a little sandpaper. That'll clean any oils off of them and make sure there's a gripping surface for the glue. So rotate these as you sand them. That way you make sure you sand the entire surface. We're going to be using Gorilla Glue today, which is a polyurethane glue. It's important when using polyurethane glues to make sure that there's a little moisture in there. So I have a damp cloth here, and I'm just going to cover these things with some moisture so that they will attract the glue and cause it to do its chemical reaction. Put the glue on. I just do one straight line of glue. But as I put it into the blank, I like to rotate it so that the glue spreads out over the whole surface of the barrel. And I just slowly push it in as I'm turning, that way to make sure the whole surface gets covered in glue. A bad glue job here will likely mean that you'll have to start over, because the little brass barrel will come flying out of there as you finish up on the lathe. So I'll go ahead and push that in there, and then I'll do my second one. Same thing, do a line of glue. Spin the brass barrel as you push it in. Now, Gorilla Glue will take a fair amount of time to dry. For up to about 45 minutes, it can still be soft. So if you go and store this somewhere like your backpack at an angle, that brass tube will slowly slide out and then glue itself in place where you don't want it. So make sure to leave these flat for about 45 minutes. After that, then you can move them around in whichever way you want. It will take approximately 24 hours to fully cure, so we'll give it till the next day before we start turning this on the lathe. I'll see you back here tomorrow, and we'll start turning this blank up.